Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today we're talking about midlife gals and their love-hate relationship with technology. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again. Now, as you probably know, I help women just like you stop wasting valuable time. My mission is to help you stop living like time doesn't matter, because it does. Today's episode is inspired by something I've heard over and over again from midlife women, especially women in business, but for sure not only women in business. And that, my friend, is the challenges you face with technology and your mindset about technology. This topic is responsible for a lot of frustration, self-judgment, feeling stupid, and of course, wasting time. Let's drill down a bit. We are talking about something that every woman over 50 or 60 has felt at one time or another. That moment when technology makes you want to throw your laptop out the window. And as I mentioned, you don't have to be in business to have felt this way. If you use a phone or a TV remote, I'm sure you can relate. Technology is everywhere and integrated into most aspects of life. You know what I mean. You've been there. You're on a deadline and the platform you've used for months suddenly looks completely different. Or something's changed in a game or an app that you use all the time. You finally might muster up the courage to try that new AI tool that everybody's talking about, like your friends are talking about it, your colleagues are talking about it, or maybe a new app that you weren't quite sure about, but again, everybody's going on about it. And 5 minutes in, you're thinking maybe I'll just go back to making banana bread instead, because this is not fun or easy or joyful. And believe me, this has been my experience too. Preparing for this episode, I remembered something from the way back machine in the early 80s when my grandmother lived with us. It turns out she was dealing with some of these same frustrations and fears, and I'll never forget the look on her face as she tried to deal with the microwave, a new piece of technology at the time for her, and relatively new for us. I don't remember exactly when we got a microwave, but it wasn't too soon before she was trying it out. She had no clue how it worked, but she was really afraid of it, like fearful. I would watch her kind of move away from it and stare at it funny. And at that point, I just thought, wow. And now, I'm right there along with her with some of this tech. And then there's me in the early days of publishing this podcast. I had to download a recording and editing app, and sometimes I would log on feeling all proud of myself. I'm like, look at me, I'm recording a podcast. And just when I was ready to press record, I looked up only to see that the settings had changed. I had nothing to do with changing these settings. I was freaking out because I had no clue what to do or how to fix it. Even going to Google felt scary because I didn't even know what to look up. I didn't know the language. I just felt overwhelmed and stupid in situations like these. And this seemed to be becoming a part of who I was at this point in my life. I can't not tell you about the most recent tech fail. This one was particularly embarrassing because of my 20-something son was right there sitting next to me during the whole thing. I had just flown out of town to move him into his new apartment to start grad school. I needed to rent a car from the airport. Everything was going so well. We were so excited to be there. Everything was on track with our rental. We headed out to the parking lot and got into our car. I plugged in his new address into my phone so we would have a map and we could get there, and we were ready to go. But Houston, we had a problem. I couldn't figure out how to start the car. It wasn't just a key fob situation either, but the fact that I'm still rocking a 2006 Honda Odyssey at home resulted in me skipping a few waves of automobile technological innovation, and I was just sitting there feeling so old and so stupid. I looked over at my son and I said, okay, I don't want to hear any jokes at this particular moment, but you got to get the guy. So he did, and he told me not only how to start the car, but also that weird 8-track tape-looking contraption where there were these buttons right next to the right of the steering wheel They were actually more like levers, not buttons, and they were necessary to drive the car and make it go. But I kept pressing them, and I couldn't figure that out either. You had to lift it instead of press it, and that never occurred to me. So there we were. I could not believe that I could not even figure out how to make that car move. Now, I have to say, another time that my midlife mantra that I suck at technology seemed to be proving itself true. But here's the thing. Tech frustration isn't just about apps and logins. It's what I just mentioned. It's about how we think about ourselves when we hit a tech wall. But there's good news. You can totally shift it. We've talked about that many, many times here on The Women in the Middle. And yes, sometimes you got to get a helper at the car rental place. But let's take a look at what the heck is going on here in midlife with technology. Okay, so we're going to dive into all of this goodness in just a minute. But just quick, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered what your future self is craving? Like, do you actually write in a journal or think about it? Like, what am I going to want a few years from now? 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, 6 months? What is my future self craving? The you in your future. And what is it that you really, really, really want to do so that you don't have regrets? Do you ever think about that? Well, I have something new and exciting to help you find out. The thing is, fine, just having a fine life, it's not good enough anymore. So if you're 50 plus and feeling unfulfilled, I want you to take my new quiz. It reveals the hidden pattern holding you back and what your future self is craving instead. And I am so excited for you to have this insight, which will help you regret-proof your life. And you know I care about you regret-proofing your life. It's free and waiting for you at www.midlifequiz.com. One more time, that's www.midlifequiz.com. So have fun with that. Okay, now let's dive in and talk about why tech overwhelm hits us so hard at this time in our lives. Let's start with some truth bombs and some mindset reframes. So truth number 1, the pace of tech. So the pace of tech change today is dizzying. Like seriously, it just makes your mind spin. And for those of us who started our careers before social media even existed, it's a lot. Or before we all had our own computers. I remember my first job where I went from a shared computer to having my own computer. And then I remember another job where I finally had a mouse. So when a mouse came into play, that was a big deal. So there's been so much change. Think about it. Remember when your fridge lasted 25 years and your rotary phone stood the test of decades of time? In our first house, I remember having to replace a new wall oven after only 5 years. 5 years! This is just the tip of the iceberg, the way things are going now with everything that's digital, like your phone, for example. How many times do you have to replace your phone since you first got a phone? How long do they last? Not as long as you would expect. Back in the day, having tech skills meant that you could type fast, and you were probably using WordPerfect. I remember taking a typing class in high school, and I am so grateful for that. Do you remember those days? I had a crush on some guy in that class. I think he was sitting in front of me, and I think he was doing better than I was. But I was doing pretty well. Remember how that went? It was like L, 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 D, 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 D. So good. I really love that I can type like that now. But, today it's a different ballgame. And if you're in business, you may be familiar with funnels, automation, CRMs, video editing, AI tools, that kind of stuff. That's not just change, that's an entire new language. When I first started my online biz, it was in 2015. And Zoom wasn't even a thing then, or if it was, I had no idea. I trained in 2014, I trained to be a life coach on teleseminar. And when I first started coaching, I wasn't doing it on Zoom. It was some kind of a teleconference line. So things have really changed. That wasn't even that long ago. This week, I was trying to get photos off my iPhone into a shared Google photo album so we could make a family slideshow. I had to ask another one of my 20-something-year-old sons to help me on a Zoom call while sharing screen. I could not figure it out. So frustrating not to know how to do basic things like we used to in the old days when we used to take film to a photo mat. So when you feel overwhelmed, it's not necessarily because you're too old. It's because the game changed while you were busy living an entire successful, meaningful life. And let's be honest, we midlife women, we're used to being so competent. We're used to knowing how to get things done. We love that. So when we suddenly feel like beginners again, it can feel uncomfortable. Like, wait a minute, I have 2 degrees and I'm pretty successful in life most of the time. I'm good at all kinds of stuff, but I can't figure out how to get a photo off my phone. Or for me, I can never figure out how to watch TV on the TV. I know how to stream it on my iPad, but I always have trouble sitting down in a comfy chair with a bigger TV and actually relaxing with it. My friend, this kind of stuff has made me cry. Seriously, it has. It's not the tool, it's the identity hit. It's that tiny whisper of maybe I'm behind, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I just suck at technology. So I have a question for you. What if you're not behind? What if you're just learning differently? Okay, let's try a mindset shift that will likely change everything. Your brain is still capable of learning stuff. Neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to make new connections, continues for life. What changes isn't ability, it's style. We may need more repetition. We may need more context. We may need to slow things down. But it doesn't make it worse. It's actually a highly efficient way to learn. So next time you catch yourself thinking, I just can't learn this, try saying, it's not that I can't, it's just that I need to learn it my way. I was able to do this with the audio editing app thing that I mentioned earlier. Now, instead of sweating and shaking and crying and feeling incompetent, and I'm not exaggerating, I think this: I'm learning to manage the technology I need for my business. And like the example, it's my way. So the first thing I do is remember that Google is my friend. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I actually think this. And then I give myself permission to ask the question to Google the way I talk. Like, I'm not trying to make it sound fancy or competent or high tech or anything. I just ask the question the way I would bumble along if I were asking my friend or my kids for help. And guess what? That always works. So remember, as a midlife gal, you are part of the generation that has adapted to everything, from typewriters to touchscreens, from dial-up to AI. And also, don't forget, from calculators to computers. You've literally witnessed every major tech evolution in modern life, so you can learn this one too. Truth number 2, you don't need to be a tech unicorn. If you're an entrepreneur, you just need to know enough to get your brilliance out into the world. If you're simply using tech for daily life, you just need to use it to make your life easier and more fun. So right away, I'm thinking about my cooktop. I have an induction cooktop, and there's a lot of digital stuff on there. Some of it I don't know how to use, so I just figured out the stuff that I use all the time. Hubby walks in, and he likes to use some of the other settings, but I'm not interested. Even though he tries to teach me, I'm like, I'm not interested. I just want to do this. This is what I want to learn how to use really well. And it's fine. It's fine. It definitely makes my life easier and more fun. That cooktop is very fun. So unless you want it to be, your job isn't to know everything, but it is to stay curious and find ways to keep moving forward. So instead of thinking something like, I have to learn all of this, just try, I'm going to learn the next right thing that helps me, that moves me forward. I'm going to learn the next right thing. So is that, I don't know, when you think about that, does that seem like an easy thing to do for you? Or do you think you're going to be tempted to continue to push yourself to know everything? Now, how you might apply this as an entrepreneur, maybe it's automating your emails. I remember when I figured out that I could there's the automation that's really hands-off, or when you write one email, you can also set it to send tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So if I am working late or early, like if I can't sleep or something, I don't want to send that email at a weird time. So I would just set it for like 8 a.m., like a more normal time to send an email. And I didn't know how to do that for years. And now I do, because I'm afraid to click around I'm afraid to click around and find things. I'm always afraid I'm going to set something and it's going to be hard to undo. Like that's another way that it wastes time for me. So I don't know how I figured it out, or if somebody showed me how to do it, I don't recall. But that is the next right thing. So maybe it's finally mastering Canva templates. Now that's something that you can use in business and just use for your everyday life. It is great. Canva is pretty easy, but also at the beginning of learning Canva, I was overwhelmed. Sometimes you're just thinking about one little thing the wrong way and it blocks you. But mastering Canva templates, or not everything about a Canva template, but I'm pretty competent at it now, it's definitely freeing. It is the next right thing. And it might be hiring somebody. It's hiring somebody in your business for the back end or to manage your email list, or hiring somebody at your house to make your life easier, getting help with some tech. Whatever it is about your phone, about your computer, about anything electronic that happens to be going on in your home or in your yard or your business, daily life counts. Your business stuff counts and daily life counts. It could be about saving a bit of time. Maybe it's about using a new app that improves your life, or maybe it's about mastering tech so it makes your life more fun. Whatever it is. So for me, the tech that I mastered and now makes my life better is streaming music. Now, you might not think of that as tech, but it's very different than it was when we had a stereo and albums. That was tech too, but now it's different. And I was definitely not interested in streaming. I have to admit, I have an amazing Frank Sinatra and Mel Torme jazz collection on CDs. And some of these recordings you can't find online. But I'm becoming more open to using Spotify, and I love being able to quickly listen to new music that my kids recommend for me and to put together collections easily. And I think I've just been doing this for 2 years. I really wasn't interested, and I felt so overwhelmed by it. Now, I also love making playlists for my podcast. So, for example, on Spotify, I was able to make a playlist for all of the empty nest episodes, or all of the menopause episodes, or all of the episodes about regret-proofing your life. I have a whole bunch of them, and that was super fun, and it wasn't even that hard. So the question is, can we normalize asking for help? You don't lose credibility when you ask, but you do gain efficiency. And I had to have my kids help me with those playlists. The smartest entrepreneurs I know delegate wisely and then learn strategically. The smartest humans I know, entrepreneurs or not, they ask great questions and allow themselves to prioritize getting the information they crave for their personal goals. So here are a few practical tips you can try. You can keep a little tech cheat sheet notebook for things that you figure out or things you always forget. Like I had to do that for bookkeeping because my bookkeeper kept telling me I wasn't submitting the right PayPal report, and I just could never remember it. I had a mental block. So I wrote it down, and I always look at it whenever I sit down to do any bookkeeping. I just know that I have that little instruction. Another thing you can do is to schedule a tech curiosity hour a month. Now, that sounds different, doesn't it? Tech curiosity sounds so different than learning new software, for example, or learning a new app. But using the word curiosity allows more play, right? You're more open to seeing what you can find and seeing what you can learn. Another thing you can do is to celebrate small wins. Every login conquered deserves a dance party. I don't know if you have login angst, but if you're not using some kind of an online password keeper, you might be challenged by this. And even with the online password keepers, you need to organize them in a certain way that they don't get confusing. So every time you log in successfully, you could think about that as a cause for celebration. And practice your best strategies. I love remembering that rebooting my computer is usually an A+ solution. Okay, here's another one. Use tech as a creative playground. So this is the third truth bomb and reframe. This one's my favorite because it's where my mindful doodling world meets my midlife coaching world. You may know that I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, And I love incorporating this into my mindfulness work as a midlife coach. When I teach mindful doodling, I always say there are no mistakes, only opportunities to make something new. So guess what? That same thing applies to tech. What if learning a new tool wasn't a chore, but more like a doodle, something to play with, something to explore, and something to get curious about? But it doesn't have to be perfect. So that totally relates to what I was just saying in the last truth bomb. So an example for me has happened with the podcast. The Women in the Middle show has been around since 2017. Early on, I felt really self-conscious about so many things: my giggle, my silliness, my mouth noises, bonking the mic when I was recording and flailing about, bird and dog sounds coming from my office. They sometimes creep into the show, these kinds of things. But the more and more I got into developing the show, and the more and more Apple reviews I received, I began to realize that it's all okay. In fact, my listeners shared that they loved it, and it made me more authentic and made some of the difficult midlife stuff that we talk about a little bit more accessible and relatable. It's not perfect, and that's okay. Now, who doesn't need to hear that message? This was all put to the test when recording episode 334, which was called Cool Down with Breathable Sleepwear for Night Sweats in Menopause with Kathy Rust. During this episode, I was startled by hearing a huge bang, like a massive bang. I thought something came through the roof. And I realized, I got up to look around. Now, I was in the middle of recording this episode. Like, my guest, Kathy, was on my Zoom. And I'm like, I think I cursed and everything because it was so shocking. The noise was so scary. So I took a look out the back. I'm at the back of the house, and I looked out the window, and I realized that it was a red-tailed hawk that had flown into my sliding glass door, which is only about 10, 15 feet from where I sit. The hawk was startled, so it had flipped upside down because it got bonked. But he seemed okay. Like, I watched him. I was just going to run out and see if I could help, but he turned himself over and he flew into a nearby tree and sat there and regrouped. So I was so relieved that it was okay. But when editing it, I decided to leave all of that hubbub and chit-chat about what happened in the episode. Because I'm like, you know what? That's the reality of having a home-based business. That's the reality of what was going on. And then there was a delightful turn of events because my guest happened to know a lot about how you manage windows to reduce the likelihood of bird strikes. And we ended up talking about that as well. So I've put a link in the show notes if you're curious and want to listen to that episode 334. Now, think of technology as your creative partner. This is an option, a way to amplify your voice, not silence it. So instead of being freaked out by technology, what if it was your creative partner? Every new skill you learn could be a brush stroke in your personal and professional evolution. Think about that. It's just like a tiny little thing that you can do in an enjoyable, creative way to make your life better. And just like in Zentangle and mindful doodling, the key is to slow down, stay present, and enjoy the process. One click, one step, one line at a time. So, speaking of lines, my friend, here is the bottom line. Tech isn't here to make you feel small. It's here to help you dream bigger. You're not too old. It's not too late. You're a woman with decades of wisdom, creativity, and courage, and technology is just the modern toolkit to get you to play with. That's a big reframe, isn't it? If you feel intimidated, take a breath. Remember that every click is a step toward confidence. And confidence compounds. One tool, one post, one app, one TV show that you found with your remote, one car start that worked with new technology, one podcast at a time. It all compounds. Now, I want to end with a client story that also illustrates this point. Crystal has absolutely challenged and surprised herself by mastering new technology. It's been a joy and pleasure to have a front row coaching seat, too. She's done this with different types of tech and lots of different projects, by writing and self-publishing a book, by hosting a regular LinkedIn audio event, and now by hosting a podcast on her passion project of luxury cruising. Now, each of those things has so many moving tech parts, and she's mastered them and done all of that amazing stuff. So if you want to hear more about this, about her experiences, it's in episode 423, and it's called Following Your Midlife Passion into Luxury Cruising with Crystal Seditis. The link will be in the show notes. So I think it comes down to this. At the end of the day, this isn't about tech. It's really about freedom. The freedom to share your ideas, the freedom to create your own schedule, the freedom to keep growing and contributing no matter your age. And then more broadly, the freedom to improve your life, the freedom to use your time more efficiently, the freedom to have more fun. So my friend, if technology's been holding you back, this is your sign to lean in, even just a little. So try something new this week. Watch one tutorial. Ask one question. Take one tiny step, because that's how you regret-proof your future. One click at a time. It's another tool in your tool belt. So that's it for this episode. If you're stuck and want to understand the hidden pattern holding you back and what your future self is craving instead, take my new midlife quiz by going to www.midlifequiz.com. If this episode resonated with you and you're ready to stop letting tech or time hold you back, come join me inside the Women in the Middle Academy. It's where we help you go from stuck and overwhelmed to clear, confident, and excited about your next chapter in life and business. Head over to www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com and book your momentum call to see if it's a good fit for you. And if you love this conversation, please share this episode with a friend who said something like, I'm just not good with tech, or like what I used to think, I suck at technology. Because maybe she's just one mindset shift away from creating her next big thing and making her life better and more fun. Thanks so much for listening to the Women in the Middle show. My focus as your regret-proofing midlife coach is to help you waste less valuable time and get on with the good stuff. Remember, being the queen of your brain domain is the best way to be. My friend, it's time to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating the happiness, excitement, joy, and fulfillment that you crave. For show notes and links, go to www.susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 428. You'll also see a link there for my other show, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is about the reality of running your business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.